Hi, in this class we are learning the syllabus of the paper 1 paper 1, that is in that paper 1 we are learning psychology syllabus. We are learning what are all the topics that psychology has. Next, the first chapter is, that is child development and pedagogy. In that child development, concept of development, what is mean by growth, what is mean by development. Next one is, and its relationship with learning. How growth and development impact on the learning. We are learning what is the relationship of growth and development with the learning. Next one is principles of development of children. What are all the principles included in the development of a children. In the development of a children, or in the growth of a development, it follows some rules. Some rules. That rules we call it as a principle. So in this chapter, in this topic, that is principle of development of a children, we are learning the some principles of development for the of the children's. Next, influence of hereditary and environment, that is in the learning process and in the growth and development of a child, how the hereditary and environmental impacts on the children. This is also important topic. Next, socialization process. In the socialization process, in this topic we are learning how the child adjust with the society. That means in the schools, how it behaves with the teacher, and how it behaves with its friends, and how it behaves with neighborhood neighborhood friends or neighborhood houses. How the child behaves in the society. So in this topic we are learning a social world and the children, that is teacher, parent and peer group. That is how it behaves with the teacher, how the child behaves with his parents, and how the child behaves in his own group, in friends group. Next one is concept of child oriented and progressive education. In this topic we are learning some of the experiments, that is Piaget's experiment, Kolsberg and Vygotsky construct and critical perspective of the construction of intelligence, multi-dimensional intelligence, languages and thoughts. And in this chapter we are learning some of the experiments. We are learning the some of the experiments. That is Piaget's experiment and Kolsberg and Vygotsky, how they perform the experiment, and what are all the implications of those experiments, and what are all the educational implications from these experiments. We are learning all these things in this chapter. Next topic is gender as a social construct. In this chapter we are learning how the gender works on the learning. I mean in a home, we may see that in our home or in somewhere or in society, for a girl child there will be a different set of rules in education also, and for boys we have some different set of rules. So though how those rules will impact on the learning. So and how the rules will be, we are learning all these things in this chapter. See, that is a gender roles, gender bias and the educational practices. Next topic is individual difference. In the individual differences we have slow learners, we have gifted childs, we have moderate learners. These are all the individual differences. We have to learn as a teacher or being a teacher, we have to learn these individual differences. So in this chapter we have individual differences among learners, and understanding the differences based on the diversity of language, caste, gender, community, and religion, etc. First one is gender as a social construct, that is male and female. So based on that we are learning the child's behavior. Next, individual differences, how a child is different from the another child based on the language. Next, caste, gender, community, religion. Based on these topic, how the individual differences, I mean the IQ level or the intelligence level will vary. So we are learning these things in the this chapter, that is individual differences among learners, understanding the differences based on the diversity of languages, caste, gender, community, religion, etc. Next topic is distinction between assessment for learning and assessment of learning. What is, we are learning the difference between the what is assessment for learning and assessment of learning. In this topic, we are learning school based assessment, continuous and comprehensive evaluation, that is CCE. Next one is prospective and practices. Next, formulating appropriate questions for assuming readiness level of learners, for enhancing learning and critical thinking of a classroom and assessing learners' achievement. So this is whole topic is about evolution. Next one is concept of inclusive education and understanding children with social needs, addressing learners from diverse backgrounds, including disadvantaged and deprived, addressing of needs of children with learning difficulties, impairment, etc. Addressing, that is addressing the talented, creative, specially abled learners. In this inclusive education, we are including these special types of childs in the normal classrooms. This whole chapter is about talented, creative, and specially abled learners, and how we are including these types of learners in the with the moderate learners. So this chapter is that much. Next one is learning and pedagogy. In this chapter we are dealing with how children think and learn, how and why the children fail to achieve the success in the school performance. I mean how the child thinks and how it learns. Next, why the children fail to achieve in the school test, class test. In the class test, we are learning this learning and in these topics in this chapter. Next one is the basic process of teaching and learning. Children's strategy of learning as a social activity and social context of learning, child as a problem solver and a scientific investigator. This whole thing is about pedagogy, learning and pedagogy. Next one is alternative concepts of thinking in children's, understanding children's errors as a significant steps in the learning process. This is the these are all included in the pedagogy. These are all the pedagogy topics. Next one is the cognition, cognitions and emotions, motivation and learning, factors contributing to learning, personal and environmental. This topic is about motivation and learning, how we have to motivate, and the emotions of a learner, how motivation of a learner, and the factors contributing to the learning. What are all the factors affect the learning process we are learning? Those are the personal and environmental. That is how the personal life of a child and environment of a child affects on the learning. We have to understand the this concept. So this is the syllabus of a psychology. Actually, in this psychology, important is topics are very simple. That is child development, that is growth development, relation with the learning, some principles of development of a children. Next one, if we have some experiments, we have to learn the implications and educational implications, and what are all the and how society, I mean environment and hereditary affects the learning process. Next, we have to learn how gender is a bias for learning. Next one is how the learning is varies from child to child based on their language, caste, gender, community, religion, and place to place. We have to learn the this concept also. Next one is inclusive education. In this inclusive education, we are learning talented, creative, gifted learners and specially abled childs. We are learning about this childs in this inclusive education. That means inclusive education means we are including these type of children in with the moderate childs in the school environment. This is the inclusive education. Next one is learning and pedagogy. In this learning and pedagogy, we are learning the teaching strategies, the personal how emotions, motivation, personal and environmental affects the learning, and some of the teaching techniques we are learning in the pedagogy. So overall, this is the child development and pedagogy topic, that is the psychology in the paper 1. Thank you.